Jesus tells one of his most challenging parables. A manager's dishonesty has been found out, and frightened for his future, he makes a series of dodgy deals with his master's clients. The disciples are then invited to reflect on how best to live in the real world and whether their true master is God or worldly matters. We are challenged in Luke 16, 1-13 and in Amos 8, 4-7 to think about the way that we use our wealth, what we possess and who we are, and how we can bring a positive, Jesus-like transformation to the communities where God has placed us today. It's easy for us to separate the sacred worship of God from the secular world, but God doesn't make that distinction. In Amos 8, the prophet is calling Israel and Judah to account for their failure to uphold the Torah, God's law. He invariably focused on what happened in the marketplace, in the shops, and at work. Amos is not calling out a few bent traders, but rather castigating a whole economic system rigged against the poor and in favor of the rich. This was a society that paid lip service to God on the Sabbath and ignored him for the rest of the week, allowing the rich to grow their wealth through unjust trading with a callous indifference to those they exploited. Amos's words echo down the centuries and land squarely in our marketplaces, in our workplaces, and challenge us. How do we use our wealth justly, as Jesus wants us to? Amos points out that these merchants and business people were keeping the religious festivals and the Sabbath, but not in spirit. It was all show. They couldn't wait for the holy days and the Sabbath to be over so they can go back to making money. Their real interest was in enriching themselves, even if it meant cheating, changing the quality while putting the prices up. Do you take time out in the week to pray and worship God? Or is it making money more important to you than anything else? Jesus told the religious leaders in Luke 16, no servant can serve two masters. Either he will hate one and love the other, or will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. Because the Pharisees that Jesus was talking to loved money and power, they took exception to Jesus's teaching. And I've been thinking, as we've come out of the COVID pandemic, we seem to be going back to an age that seems to measure people's worth by how much money they make and not their contribution to our society. Do we laugh at Jesus's warnings against serving money? Do we try to explain them away? Do we apply them to someone else? The Pharisees, for example. Unless we take Jesus' statement seriously, we may be acting like Pharisees ourselves. Do we use our wealth and our actions based on the values of the kingdom of God? And throughout this past week, as a lot of people have been thinking about the Queen and the royal family, I've been reflecting on Queen Elizabeth's life and her faith and the words of Jesus in Luke and Amos's warnings. In Queen Elizabeth's 2014 Christmas broadcast, the Queen put it this way: For me, the life of Jesus Christ, the Prince of Peace, is an inspiration and an anchor in my life, a role model of reconciliation and forgiveness. He stretched out his hand in love, acceptance, and healing. Christ's example has taught me to seek, to respect, and value all people of whatever faith or none. Do we seek out Christ's example in our life?